Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So I'm Khalid Ahmed, and I'll be moderating today's timely and interesting discussion on legacy modernization in retail. We all know that in a rapidly evolving technological landscape, organizations are faced with the challenge of maintaining and upgrading their existing legacy systems to stay competitive, secure, and efficient. Today, with a panel who has a lot of experience in retail industry and they've been doing it throughout their careers, we'll discuss about the impact legacy modernization is having on all the retail industry. So without any further ado, let's get introduced to a panel so we all can get started. And Vikas, let's start with you, if you can, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Khalid. And apologies, I was told that my video is not very clear. I can blame it on the camera, but let's get started. I'm Vikas Azrati. I work out of the Nasdaq Toronto office, and I'm the group CTO. I take care of our clients in the North American region and try to drive the technology direction of the organization along with our CTOs at various delivery centers. So that's quickly about me.
Thank you, Vikas. Bhavya.
Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Khalid. So I am Bhavya. I am CTO for Nasdaq India and helping a lot of clients with the legacy modernization initiatives. I have a passion for solving complex problems, right? And one of the things I believe is that we have to build it right for the first time so that it is good for the lifetime. So thanks, Khalid.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavya. Nice to have you. Hey, Ram, how are you? Over to
Hey,
you.
Khalid, doing well. Hey guys, Ram Indukuri. I'm a uh, AI and data practitioner. Live and work out of Chicago. But I have been on several legacy modernization exercises, and I advise customers on how to go about legacy modernization. So, hope to have a good conversation today.
Thank
Back to you,
you.
Khalid.
Thank you. Thank you, Ram. And thank you for your introduction, guys. Vikas, Bhavya, and Ram. And it's totally a pleasure to have you today. All right. So now what we'll love to do in the next 45 to 50 minutes is that just to deep dive a little deeper into this topic and love to get to hear from you all about your actual experience that you all had. And maybe to start with my first question around how are legacy systems affecting business growth today? And why has it become a must for business for modernize? Vikas, maybe we can start from you.
Sure, Khalid. So again, like as you know that we have been involved with the legacy system modernization across various kind of clients, not just retail clients. I know that we are specifically focusing on the retail sector here, but I would say that the biggest thing that we have observed all throughout is that these legacy systems they act as a hindrance to the business growth more than an enabler. And I think this is something that we have seen time and again. And again, there is nothing wrong about the systems the way they were built earlier. Like those systems were working, it was supposed to work that way. But then over a period of time, as the technology has advanced and as the user experience demands have evolved, there is a different need that needs to be applied to the legacy systems. Now, if you look at the volumes, by volume, the North American retail industry is over 1 million retail businesses. And if you look at the failure rate, almost 70% of them, they are going to fail in the first 10 years. Now, if we talk about those 30% that are successful, they have built in a lot of software, they have built in a lot of ecosystem uh, that is legacy now. And this legacy ecosystem needs to evolve in order to meet the needs of the industry today. So the idea is that it needs to align with the demands of the business. And there are several problems that organizations are facing with respect to that. The first and foremost is that there is always a high cost associated with technology, which is pretty much end of life. I'm sure that we'll talk about certain case studies, but for one of our clients, they have got systems which are either mainframe based or they are stored procedures written in SQL Server, which are pretty much end of life. One, they are not able to maintain them. Second, they are scared to touch them. And third, there is even a shortage of labor who can work on these technologies. The shortage of labor is because of the fact that most of the engineers, most of the people in the technical industry, they want to work on systems, they want to work on technologies that are either comparable or better than what they actually have in their pockets at their home. So like if you put them into an organization in which they are working on a system which was created 20 years back, it doesn't keep them very happy, and then they move on. The other part is that there is a significant amount of technical debt that has gathered in these legacy systems, because of which even to keep the lights on for these systems, that involves a lot of investment. So one, there is a shortage of labor. Second, in order to even keep them up, it needs a significant amount of investment. Another client of ours, like they spend almost 67% of their IT budget just keeping the lights on instead of actually making headway into building new functionality. Then there are other factors, like these are extremely customized systems. Many of our retailers, they have got very customized systems which are very specific to their needs, as a result of which it is just difficult to modify them. They are not according to the industry standards. uh, Another problem, which is a big one, is master data management. There is almost always never a single source of truth. There is a lot of data duplication that happens. Like data needs to be copied over from one system to another, like file transfer, so on and so forth. And as a result of which, the decision making is impeded. Like there are sub-optimized plans and allocations. The inventory issues are there, ultimately leading to negative consumer-facing impact. So what we want to, and again, like many of these systems, these are point-to-point systems. So again, one of our clients, 13,000 plus point-to-point interactions happening without actually, like going through a central bus or something like that. So that is the reason why many of these legacy systems, they need to be modernized. And the biggest advantage that you get out of this modernization is that you are not only building a foundation, but you are building a foundation for future ready technologies. So you can introduce technologies like IoT, AI, machine learning, like one-touch deployments, have the CI/CD pipelines that work with click of a button, your infrastructure as code. So all of these factors, they enable you to leapfrog competition and become future ready. So that is where, Khalid, we are seeing a lot of issues and opportunities as well.
Absolutely. And all important valid points, because when we're talking about journeys, inventories, cost, life cycle, and talent, all of these points are very must. But there's a lot of influence in nowadays, wherein from technologies like AI, IoT, ML, like you just mentioned, because these days, Ram, how do you feel and think some of these are going to help in modernization of legacy systems?
Sure, Khalid. Before I jump onto AI, I just want to add one thing to what Vikas said. It's kind of interesting. One of our customer is one of the driver for modernization, apart from the reasons what Vikas mentioned, is inability to parallelize feature development. Because legacy systems tend to be monoliths. They are huge, complex systems with a lot of business logic in it. But the problem with that approach is, if you may have 100 people, but that knowledge lies with one or two people. And if you want to develop a feature, you would need to know the entire application flow. And that's a big barrier. And one of our customer was struggling with that. And their key question is, hey, I'm okay with technology. I'm okay with everything else. But the problem is every time I want to develop a feature, I end up getting stuck with these two guys who knows the whole system and everything runs on it. And I'm scared if they leave the company, you know. So it comes down to how fast can you implement features is a critical factor in legacy modernization. Now, coming back to your question, AI is an exciting topic. Several industries have been heavily investing into that. But retail, it is actually, in some cases, at the core of how retail functions. Some of our customers have been investing in AI for quite some time. One of the popular use cases is forecasting. Now, if you think of retail, the bulk of the profitability and complexity lies in supply chains, and supply chains are very, very, nowadays modern supply chains are very, very thin. What it means is there is no fat built into it. We have seen it during pandemic. We have seen it during supply chain calamities, like ships getting stuck in Panama Canal and stuff like that. So you are replacing inventory with information, and imagine retail supply chains. Imagine the situation when you are doing promotions. By the way, promotions are integral part of retail, ever since we know it, right? Buy one,
Yeah.
get one free. That happens and has to happen all the time, because it is not just attracting the customers, but also it is, getting rid of the product, particularly if it is perishable. Uh, you need to do these promotions. You need to drive sales up, uh, you know, in a short duration. And one of the customer has invested heavily into forecasting. Now forecasting is not just throwing a forecast at store manager's face and say, hey, plan according to it. You need to build supply chains that embed AI, which also provide feedback loop. Okay, you predicted something. What do I do about it? So in retail, these have to be not like generative AI to have fun, but they need to be embedded into the supply chains. You need to you have a promotional coupon management system, for example. You have inventory management system, you have supplier management system, warehouse management system. All of them have to work in tandem. So if you predict a forecast and a store manager agrees with it and accepts it, it has to generate orders back to the suppliers, back to the warehouses, and those orders need to be fulfilled on time. So AI, plays a large part. But coming back to the legacy modernization, if your systems cannot react to what AI predicts, AI is useless. So yeah, AI is you know is going to help you only if you can integrate that into your core systems really well. Now, there are other use cases. I think we have all seen how well Amazon recommends. So same thing can be said about the brick and mortar stores. Like, when you walk into a store, how do you merchandise? One of our progressive customer has thrived on the concept of selling the experience, selling the product. Like, they have kitchens in retail stores, which teach customers, how to make, I don't know, for a specialty pasta, and what ingredients can you buy. So it's not just throwing a pack of pasta, but it is, how do you keep it all together? What do you recommend? How do you make the customer experience better? So there are even more use cases. I think more customers are investing in merchandising, investing in technologies like semantic web, investing in IoT, cashierless stores. So these all these AI and applications have to have very flexible, scalable, systems, supply chain, and core services, and that drives legacy modernization, nowadays pretty heavily.
Yeah.
Actually, I
Yeah.
want to add something there, right? So Ram, you mentioned that Amazon has a fantastic recommendation system, right? But one of the problems that I see, okay, so for example, if I have to buy a washing machine, okay, I bought a washing machine from Amazon itself, okay, but there is no feedback mechanism, right? So a customer has already placed an order, okay, but they keep on showing that washing machine again and again, right? So I think one of the things which is very essential for AI, and I think you have also highlighted it, is basically what is the feedback mechanism, right? Whether you are providing the accurate recommendations or it is not, right? So every AI system will evolve unless and if you provide the correct feedback to it, right? And I think that is the need of the hour, that not only just building a model is not AI, right? So it's basically how do you improve that model right? And how do you capture a continuous feedback and make sure that you are able to evolve that model?
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
that's an excellent point, Bhavya. And sorry, Ram, I just wanted to, yeah, you're like on your conversation, I just wanted to add two more things. I know that you mentioned that a lot of organizations, they are getting into AI without actually having the foundations in place. And this is something that we see time and again. So we call this the penthouse aspiration internally. Like everybody wants to get to the penthouse, but they don't want to build all the foundation layers underneath. Like just get me to the 34th store, or like a story, or the 50th one. But I don't care about the data foundation. So I think that is something that we want to point out, that is essential for you to actually get to that level. And then the second one is, Bhavya and Ram, since we are talking about recommendations, Ram, you might recall for one of our clients, we actually ended up building a knowledge graph. And that knowledge graph for that retail industry was very successful in generating recommendations as well. So for example, if you as a customer are trying to, like buy a pasta, pre-made pasta, then of course it's going to show you all those options. But then it is also going to show you an option of all the ingredients that go into making a pasta along with the recipe. So essentially, that is like enabling the customer, teaching the customer, but also enabling the customer to make a choice that, okay, do I want to buy a pre-made thing, or do I want to build it on my own? Because I have the recipe, I have all the ingredients listed out. So maybe I can buy the ingredients and make multiple pastas out of that. So that is another thing that came out of that knowledge graph use case that we implemented. But Bhavya, you are right. So that still did not address the fact that if the customer has bought a pasta, let us not show him the advertisements for pasta anymore.
I think, one of the thing, if you want to enable data, AI, leverage the advanced technology, one of the critical thing is how you modernize. For example, you need to, it's not just, if you want to expose API, if you want to collect data like history, not just what happened, but also when it happened, how it happened. You need to build these systems with specific architectures. Like, for example, event-driven is like really powerful way to build applications. And I think Bhavya, maybe you can expand on from architecture point of view. Yeah, you can do all these nice things, but remember, your applications need to be modernized, and use this opportunity to leapfrog, build in a modern way, build in a way that enables AI, enables integration easily, enables parallel development, enables fast feature deployment. Maybe you can expand on what are the architectures that you would recommend when someone modernizes?
Oh, yes, it's a difficult question, right? So I think there are many architectures, right, which are popular nowadays, and every client that we work with, right, have a different problem domain. Okay, so some may be using the off-the-shelf products, right? Some may be using a lot of legacy systems. Some maybe have in-house products, right, because they were not able to customize any off-the-shelf product into what they need. Okay. So let me try to describe the problems, right, and see what are the solutions that we have provided. So one of our biggest retail customer, right, which is a Canada-based retail giant. Okay, the problem was scalability. So they have a lot of homegrown systems, okay, and they were using some of the on the off-the-shelf products as well. Now the problem that they were facing was that they were not actually able to scale, right? Because the homegrown system had been built on monolithic architecture. Okay, off-the-shelf products have a lifetime. Okay, plus there are different integrations which were very difficult with the off-the-shelf products, right? So they can do it in one way, not the other way. Okay, which was actually which was causing a huge problem, right? Because over the period of time, their customer base has grown a lot. Okay, now if they are not able to basically provide the responses in a given time, okay, they are going to lose their customer base. Okay, so for this, we basically suggested them that let's re-architecture or re-platform your application, right, and start building different microservices. Okay. Now, building microservices is, everybody talks about microservices, right? But even if you build a lot of microservices, but if you do not use the right design principles, okay, it is going to cause you further problems, right? Because earlier you were managing, let's say, 10 systems. With microservices, you have grown your services, right? And there is a manageability aspect with every service. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to build it right. Okay. We have to understand that what is the bounded context, right? That we are going to, and identify those bounded contexts, right? See what is the events that are flowing into your system and basically design your microservices according to the domain that you're working on. Now, once you have decided that you want to migrate to microservices architecture, okay, for these legacy system, there can be a heavy code rewrite, okay, which makes it impossible for you to plan it, okay, because you cannot do a big bang operation and say that I will basically convert everything into microservices and then I will migrate to the new system, right? So what you have to do is you have to, and one of the approaches that we have used, which is very popular, right, is strangler pattern, where we do is we basically isolate some of the functionality, right? Start building that functionality and then switch it over, right? So as we keep on building the new services, right, and start integrating it with the old system or legacy system gets deprecated over the period of time, right? So it's not a big bang approach, but basically identifying the parts of the application that will give you the maximum return, focus on that, make sure that it works fine, right? Then move on to the next system, right? So that is how this approach works. Now, another example, right, that I want to give you is basically one of our clients was facing problem. It was not a problem, right, with scalability. So the systems and their customer base was pretty strong, right? They have loyal customers, but the problem was that they were going to enhance the customer experience, right? They wanted to roll out new features, okay? And now this particular application was built long back, okay? And at that particular point, right, the conditions were different and now the conditions are different, right? So what we have to do is we have to modernize the architecture. Now for them, right, what we suggested that we do basically build on event driven design, okay, where everything, right, every year the current systems that you have, they should be able to publish the events, right? And somehow we have to collate those events to basically make new features out of it, right? So all the new features will basically will you can say read those events, right, and consume those events and basically roll out the new features. And this was pretty successful for them, right, because they were able to sustain their existing applications, but because they started using Kafka as their platform, right, they were able to emit events, and on the basis of those events, right, we were able to create whatever state we want to create, okay. And for them, right, we also built a lot of event source services, okay, which were able to consume these events and produce further events, okay, which can be actually uh, so there were multiple consumers, right? So we were able to also build the data and analytics layer for them from this event bus that we were consuming. So uh, now one of the, and there are many companies, right, who do not want to invest a lot in infrastructure, basically because they do not have the capability, okay. So serverless architecture fits in the bucket, right? So you can write a lot of functions, right? You can coordinate these functions to build a complete service, right? It's just a small functions that you are writing to basically achieve a functionality. Then there are many integration patterns available to combine these functions to basically build the functionality that you require for them, right? The benefit of serverless is that there is a little maintenance overhead, right? If you automate everything with the infrastructure creation, as well as basically making sure that your serverless functions are created using Terraform, right? You can eliminate all of your maintenance needs, right? And it is a very good pattern because reusability is inherited in this particular serverless architecture. So you build small functions, you can use those functions multiple times, right, in different kind of functionalities that you want. So these are some of the popular architectures, Ram, that we have been dealing with, right? I can go on and on, right? But I think let others speak as well.
I think you mentioned contexts, subcontexts. I think for audience who are not familiar, these are ideas in domain-driven design. No matter what architecture that you choose, what product that you choose, one thing that we are heavily advising customers is to look at the domain-driven design. It's I would say very, very essential to design your software that fits the business domain. So, the ideally designed application, no matter what architecture you choose, you should be able to understand the code, even if you don't know coding. Because the language that you use should be business language. The services should be coherent. So, there are a lot of good things that can come out of doing proper domain-driven design. However, I think as you can see, it's not one solution that fits all. I think it is extremely important that you will save tons and tons of money if you take an advice from someone who has been there, done that, spent some time, look at these options, look at these architectures, look at your business domain, and come out with a roadmap, and discuss the cost. What we do at Nasdaq is typically varies from anywhere from 2 weeks to 8 weeks, depending on the size and complexity. But we do go into the nuts and bolts, look at the existing code, look at the existing systems, talk to the stakeholders, and come out with a preferred approach to execute such project. Because I think there are a lot of unknowns that you will discover. The only way is to take help from, at least eliminate things that if you have done legacy modernization, few of them, you can right away eliminate some loopholes and be safe. And of course, doing iteratively, adapting to architectures that you just mentioned, would go a long way. Back to you, Khalid.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll just add to that. So the 2 week and 8 week exercise that Ram is mentioning is something that we call the fusion exercise. So what we do as a part of that fusion is that we come in as senior architects. We work along with your enterprise team, or we work along with your stakeholders, try to identify the problem, try to identify what are the systems, how they're talking to each other, through a very specialized exercise that is called event storming. So that is a part of the fusion exercise, and ultimately it leads into all your domain-driven design. So through that, we are able to identify the events passing through different systems, identify the bounded context, identify the sub-context, identify the the integration boundaries. And in this 2 to 8 weeks, what we try to come back to our clients is with an executable blueprint that this is how the system needs to be modernized, or this is how the system needs to be built in order to be future ready. And maybe further down the conversation, we'll talk a little more about that. But I just wanted to mention that after that, the implementation could be carried out, but this fusion exercise lays down the groundwork of all the implementation.
Absolutely. And thank you, Vikas. And Bhavya, to your point, like you said, different customer cases would have different problem statements and pain points. And yeah, there would be multiple ways to handle it, definitely. So, before we move ahead, I would like to remind our audience to ask any questions they want from the panel. Just put your questions in the Q&A sections and we'll pick it from there. All right. So, Vikas, coming back to you again. How legacy modernization, and like you mentioned before as well, how this modernization can help leapfrog retailers and win customers?
Yeah, sure, Khalid. So see, legacy modernization helps in various aspects of the business, which ultimately help the customers. But I'll more specifically talk from the customer endpoint. So see, the biggest advantage that we get out of legacy modernization is that, as Ram suggested earlier, that we are able to rapidly get the concept to the customer. So if there is, say, for example, in COVID, when we were working with a few of our retailers, there were things like curbside pickup that needed to happen immediately. So since the systems were built in place, since the foundation was in place, the concept to customer was relatively much faster as compared to modernizing the entire ecosystem at that time. So we need to build the right foundation for the customers to benefit. Then the attention to customer through things like personalization, as we call it in retail, clienteling, that is something which is essential. We can build adaptive home pages. We can offer promotions and products which the customer need on the basis of their shopping history. We can provide guided discovery of products. We can do dynamic outreach to customers on the basis of, again, their shopping experiences. Uh, we can do cross merchandising. We can do things like digital endless aisles. Once you have the legacy system which are modernized, you can actually, like build endless aisles for the customers so that they can digitally, like go through all of them. We can build the planograms for physical stores, which are going to be more relevant to how customers experience the store. Ram, Bhavi, and I, we were actually at one of our big retailers in Texas, and we felt that, hey, if we do this, this, and this, it'll feel like that this store is just built for us. So that is the kind of experience that we want to give to the customers, depending on the location where they are, what are their shopping needs, when do they shop, and so on and so forth. Then there are other things, like, of course, you can give them better compliance, you can give them better customer support, like you can give them interactive chat through which they are able to discover products. You will be giving them better security because your platform would now be, like enabled with future ready technologies. You will be having ways through the use of AI, machine learning, IoT to reduce shrinkage in your retail stores, as a result of which you can pass on these cost benefits back to the customers. You will be putting better products at the cash wraps so that the customers, they can actually, have a better experience. And last but not the least, like what I can remember is that you'll be building better loyalty programs. Now, with those loyalty programs, again, all of that is in the interest of the customer and in the interest of the business. So essentially, by doing all of these things, you will be increasing as a retailer the lifetime value of the customer, which we call the LTV, and then the average order volume for every store in which we are implementing these kind of legacy modernization features, right from the backend systems to the front end systems to the way your front end staff is interacting with the customers and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And because these are some great points wherein you talked about like rapid innovation, customization and personalization, data security, technical advisory, cost benefits. These are some of the most important pillars that help organizations differentiate with others in the competition. So yeah, pretty true on that. All right, moving ahead. So we have been talking about the impact of legacy modernization, the influence of technologies on it. How can it help leapfrog with customers? But we really want to know what are the approaches and that can an enterprise take for legacy modernization. Ram, if you can share some thoughts on that.
Sure. I think Bhavya already touched upon some of these architectures. I think that falls under the category of like, you are essentially rewriting the whole application. You may have a mainframe application or a legacy Java application. Just look at learn the business, but you practically rewrite. That is one approach. We have seen some customers do other approaches, like for example, rehosting, which is lift and shift. Take your application, deploy it in cloud. I don't know, you can call it modernization. Yeah, you're using cloud. One of our retail customers actually, it's not funny, but it sounds funny. When we got there, we were engaged to move a application from one cloud to other cloud. The reason was this cloud was expensive, and what happened was it was lifted and shifted from on-premise, and rightly done so, because they had to retire the data center. But the cost could be humongous if you take that approach and you are spending money at the same time you are not truly achieving all the benefits that we just talked about. But there may be use cases where it is perfectly good enough. The other is some customers re-platform, just upgrade the OS, upgrade the components, and stick with it. Some customers encapsulate, like for example, it's a popular pattern in mainframes, like you kind of build some APIs and expose them and just leave the mainframe as is. That might work for a few months or maybe years, but I don't think it will give you all the benefits that you require. That just alleviates some temporary pain. I think the real value can come from re-architecting, rebuilding. This is where we can implement modern architectures that Bhavya just talked about and get the most of it. It's amazing when you architect it right. You would see some of these benefits, like, you can hugely impact the data and AI program, for example. The last approach could be, if you find a product that fits the process, you could try to implement. But I think, that's a very, very risky approach, particularly because, products are built for, like multiple industries, multiple companies, and you will get into customizing it. And these products have, a technology life cycle of their own. And you are eventually depending on vendors' technological choices. And are they event driven? Are they cloud native? What kind of data and API that they will expose? What is the cost model? There are a lot of pitfalls, but I think, there might be, I would say, rare situations when a product will fit, especially in retail, especially if the application that you are trying to replace is not, standardized process like, finance and HR. If this is something that is core to your business, the chances are a product will not fit, or if you try to fit, you will run into expensive issues. You may really want to get some expert opinion, evaluate the options, think about risks, and jump into which approach do you want to take. I think, just extending on some of the conversations we're having on technologies, one thing that our customers actually, constantly fear is the cutover. All said and done, yeah, you can do whatever approach you can take and you can architect. But I think, when you actually cut over, it's actually pretty risky operation, particularly if, some of these modernization projects that we were involved in, most of these are very, very core to the business. You can't have a second of downtime or a minute of downtime. I mean, whatever is going to disrupt the business, is going to have severe financial implications and customer satisfaction. So, I want to ask Bhavya on what are some of the approaches that you see customers taking in switching to a modernized system?
Interesting question. So from the cutover perspective, right, what I feel is actually it depends on whether it's a mission critical application or what is the downtime that your application can support. Okay, so some of the applications are routine applications, right? They are not mission critical. Okay, so we can use a simple strategy, right, where we can actually migrate the data, right, shut down the system, then just migrate, just test the new data, right, and make sure that we are able to test the new application. And if everything works fine, right, this is a simple cutover, right, and that can happen only for small system, right, small application. But think of from the legacy modernization perspective, right? One of the things that I was discovering was a strangler approach, right, where we keep on migrating one part of the system, right, make sure it is integrated with the old system, right, and then somehow, right, keep on basically building the new parts and replace the existing functionalities. Right? Now, if I talk about cutover approaches, right? So for mission critical system, I think the only approach that I have seen working is the active approach. Okay. Now, what is an active approach, right? So active approach is that your both old system and the new systems are live together. Okay, but you have not switched it over, right? So what we do is we basically keep the states in sync, right? So we can use various there are various technologies which are available, right? So for example, if you have to you have a messaging queue like Kafka, right? So you can either use Kafka Mirror or Confident Replicator to replicate your events to the other system, right? Then there is for the database, right, there are solutions like HVR which helps you with bidirectional sync. Okay, so you can keep on syncing both the databases, right? Now this approach can be used to basically migrate a smaller functionality, right, and then again repeating the process, right, to basically get the whole legacy system deprecated. The other approach, right, where you can afford a minimal downtime, okay, can be a flash cut approach, right? With the flash cut approach, what you do is you do not do a bidirectional sync, right? But you make sure that your source data is replicated over to the target, right? So your source data and target data is in sync, okay? And once you have ensured the data validation, right, you can, with a minimal downtime, right, you can switch to the new system, okay? But this also has to be, because there is a lot of, because if you do a big bang approach, right, what you have to do is you have to do a lot of data validation, right? So again, I would suggest that we do it slowly, right? Keep one functionality in mind, right? Focus on the data validation, then basically pick another functionality and migrate it, right? So these are some of the approaches that I have seen to be working, okay, with most of our clients.
Interesting.
Yeah, all interesting, because I'm pretty sure all these approaches that you guys talked about will help the retailers in a longer run, definitely. And so we've been getting a couple of questions from our audience. First question is, how should we assess the need for modernization? I mean, because since you've been talking about how and what are the, how would this help? Probably if you can take this question up.
Yeah, I would just say, see, like the biggest thing is that whenever you feel that you are in pain, you need to look for a solution. And this pain could be that either you're not able to get the features to the customers fast enough, your time to market is too long, you have been spending a lot of cost without innovating, you are getting behind most of your competitors just because you are not able to, invest into the right technologies. I think if there is anything that is keeping you awake, probably it is related to software, and probably it needs to be modernized. We'll be happy to talk and take a look. But that is what we have seen in most of the cases. Many times the customer tells us, "No, everything is great, but only if I could, get to the customer faster." Now that one question, and again, as I said, as a part of the fusion exercise, we try to understand what is the North Star. Now, if the North Star is that we want to get innovation to the customer faster, and then we look and backtrack and see what are the challenges that are inhibiting that to happen, and then we work on that in order to make that happen. So I would say that if there is any kind of pain that you're feeling, and if you're feeling that you are getting left behind in the software industry and the innovation, and your business is not future ready, I think that's the sign.
Absolutely, absolutely. Next question, how do we leverage data and analytics for legacy modernization? I mean, Ram, you've been talking about AI and IoT. Probably if you can take this one up.
I think we talked about how modernization helps data and AI. I guess question is how data and AI will help modernization. I think AI and data is a byproduct of modernization. But one thing that comes to my mind is like one of the customer, in this situation, we were using the data that we were generating from the application to kind of give comfort to the business that the data is accurate. Like, business was running a lot of, data checks and reports to verify that, this application can actually go live, is production worthy. I think that is one thing. Again, you need to have the right data from the old system and the new system to compare and say, yes, this looks good. I guess, that's one way data and AI can help modernization. There might be other situations, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Ram has already talked about a lot of use cases, Khalid, right? So if you are able to capture the data, right, then you can build a lot many features for your users, right? So
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I want to thank our panelists, Vikas, Bhavya, and Ram, for all your insights. I mean, we have a lot of different interesting stories on what legacy is, the different approaches for legacy modernization, and how it helps the business leapfrog and win customers. Thank you for your time, guys. Thank you once again.